Let's now proceed to the fourth part of the overview on our topic, the emotions. Here is a flow diagram of the effect of the internal organs disharmony on emotional state according to chapter 8 of the spiritual axis. The liver, which governs blood, and with hun as its spirit. If empty, there will be fear, and if full, there will be anger. The heart, which governs the blood vessels, with Shen as its spirit. In empty, there will be sadness, and if full, there will be laughter. The spleen, which governs nourishment, with E as its spirit. In empty, there will be weak limbs and the five zang disorder. If full, there will be distension and menstrual urinary disorder. The lungs, which governs qi with po as its spirit. If empty, there will be nasal obstruction, and if full, there will be breathlessness. The kidneys, which govern essence with G as its spirit. If empty, there will be collapse, and if full, there will be distension and five Zhang disorders. An interesting aspect of the above passage from the spiritual axis are the sentences, heaven bestows as virtue or the, earth bestows as chi. When virtue flows and chi pulsates, there is life. These two sentences show very clearly the Confucian influence on Chinese medicine. The idea that heaven bestows virtue, the term used for virtue, the, is a typical Confucian term indicating the qualities of the Confucian sage, and the translation as virtue is inevitably inadequate. This is discussed more fully below. Chapter 5 of the simple question says, anger injures the liver, sadness counteracts anger, joy injures the heart, fear counteracts joy, pensiveness injures the spleen, anger counteracts pensiveness, worry injures the lungs, joy counteracts worry, fear injures the kidney, and pensiveness counteracts fear. Here is a flow diagram of the emotions counteracting each other along the controlling sequence of the five elements. So, pensiveness counteracts anger, anger counteracts sadness, and sadness counteracts joy, and joy counteracts fear. However, the above five emotions are not by any means the only emotions discussed in the Yellow Emperor's Classic. In the other passages, worry and shock are added, giving seven emotions as follows. Anger affects the liver, joy affects the heart, worry affects the lung and spleen, pensiveness affects the spleen, sadness affects the lungs and the heart, fear affects the kidneys, shock affects the kidneys and the heart. Zhang Jibin actually mentioned 8 emotions in his classic of categories. These are excess joy, anger, pensiveness, worry, fright, shock, sadness, and fear. Besides the usual 7 emotions, some Chinese doctors considered other emotions such as grief, love, hatred, and desire. Grief would naturally be akin to sadness. Love here means not normal love, such as that of a mother towards her child or that between two lovers, but rather the condition when love becomes an obsessive or when it is misdirected, as when a person loves someone who persistently hurts them. Hatred is a common negative emotion that would be akin to anger. Desire means excessive craving. The inclusion of this as a cause of disease reflects in the Taoist, Confucian, and Buddhist influence on the Chinese medicine, as all three major Chinese religions or philosophies considered excessive desire to be the root of many emotional problems. Indeed, according to Buddhist thought, desire is the ultimate cause of disease. Clinging to external objects or other people, and to life itself. Indeed, from a Buddhist perspective, it is the very craving for the warmth of a womb by a soul in the bardo state, or the state in between death and life, that brings our existence into being. This excessive craving, which is one aspect of the emotion of joy in Chinese medicine, causes the minister fire to blaze upward and harass the mind. Finally, two emotions that are common in Western patients but not mentioned in Chinese books are guilt and shame. Thus, the list of emotions could be expanded as follows, and these are the emotions that will be discussed here. First, there is anger, which includes frustration and resentment and affects the liver. Joy affects the heart. Worry affects the lungs and spleen. Pensiveness affects the spleen. Sadness and grief affects the lungs and the heart. Fear affects the kidneys. Shock affects the kidneys and the heart. Love affects the heart. Cravings affects the heart. Guilt affects the kidneys and the heart. And shame affects the heart and the spleen. Thank you for your attention.